The Gemara in Bava makes two observations regarding the allocation and distribution of land to the 12 Shvatim. The first is that Lo Nechleka Ela Begoral. The allocation of land mandated and was done through a goral. This assertion is based upon Bamidbar 26:55, Ach Bagoral Yechalek et Haaretz. A second assertion is that Lo Nechleka Ela Beurim V'Tumim, that the distribution of land was done through the Urim V'Tumim, the scroll that was placed into the Choshen, which functioned as an oracle, and this is based upon Pasuk Nun Vav, Al Pi HaGoral Techalek Nachlato. According to the Goral, the inheritance shall be allocated Ben Rav L'Ma'at. In some cases, a larger portion of land, in some cases, a smaller portion of land. We will shortly look at a commentary of Rashi, who offers a midrashic interpretation to the words Al Pi HaGoral. So what we seem to have here are two mutually exclusive systems for the allocation of land amongst the 12 Shvatim. A system controlled by the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, working through the Urim V'Tumim, points to a predetermined allocation of land, whereas one that hinges upon a goral, which by its very nature produces random results, would point to a lack of predetermination or any master plan. And hence, the Gemara asks, HaKetzad? How is it possible to reconcile the two systems? The suggestion proposed by the Gemara is both novel and far-reaching in its ramification. Elazar meluvash Urim V'Tumim, donned the Urim V'Tumim, v'Yeshua v'chol Yisrael omdim lefanav, and the entire population, with Yehoshua at its head, assembled in front of him. A kalpi was an urn used for drawing lots, a goral urn. The kalpi shel shvatim, the kalpi shel tchumim, munachim lefanav. In front of Elazar HaKohen, there were two urns, one containing the names of the 12 shvatim, to which were to be allocated land in Eretz Canaan, the other containing 12 scrolls of parchment, or paper, or stone, defining 12 regions that were to be allocated to the 12 Shvatim. But before formally drawing the lot, the Goral, V'hayimachavin b'Ruach HaKodesh, through Ruach HaKodesh, Elazar meditated, V'omer, and proclaimed, Zvulun Oleh, from the barrel containing the names of the Shvatim, Zvulun would be drawn, and from the barrel containing the 12 regions, Tchum Akko Ole Emo. The region of Akko, for example, would also be chosen. He then, Toraf Bekalfi Shel Shvatim, he tossed around, mixed up, randomized the names of the Shvatim in the Shvatim barrel, reached into the barrel, V'ala b'yadai Zvulun. Out came the scroll bearing the name of Zvulun. Toraf Bekilfei Shel Tchumim. He then randomized, mixed up, churned the container containing the 12 regions, V'ala b'yadai Tchum Akko. Reached in, pulled out a scroll, and the scroll contained information regarding the boundaries of the Akko region. And this process was repeated for each of the 12 Shvatim. And it is to this procedure that Rashi, in his commentary to Pasuk Nun Daled, refers when he writes Lo asu ela al yedei hagoral, that the allocation of land was done using the goral system. However, v'hagoral haya al pi ruach hakodesh. The goral functioned according to the directives of the ruach hakodesh, k'mo mefurash beBava Batra, as is explained in Masechet Bava Batra. And this is the background to the second question posed by the Rebbe. If it was done by Goral, and the Goral was controlled by the Ruach HaKodesh, why was there a need for the Urim V'Tumim to predict the results of the Goral? In footnote number 11, the Rebbe fine-tunes this question, forewarning and rejecting a possible reply. Footnote 11 asks us to consider the possibility that it was the Ruach HaKodesh, Elazar HaKohen, wearing the Urim V'Tumim, that controlled the Goral, and was there to affirm to the nation that whatever land was allocated to their respective shevet through the Goral was not an outcome of some randomness, but had been pre-planned by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and those plans were reflected in the results of the Goral. In the words of the footnote, that from the words of Rashi, V'hagoral haya alpi ruach hakodesh, k'mo shemefurash b'Bava Batra, mashma, l'chora, appears to suggest that Sheha Urim V'Tumim Hachichu, it was through the Urim V'Tumim that proved the provided evidence, Sheha Goral Haya Alpi Hashem Baruch HaKodesh, that the result of the Goral was one that had been determined by HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'lo ba'akrai, and not through some random chance of good fortune. In other words, the Goral and the Ruach HaKodesh system in this case were one and the same. And therefore, one cannot ask why there was a need for Elazar through the Urim v'Tumim to be involved in this process. The Rebbe in the footnote rejects this line of thinking on two counts. Firstly, if the allocation was controlled by the Urim v'Tumim, there would be no need to have a Goral. And secondly, Rashi in his commentary to Pasuk 56 forces us to conclude that the Goral and the Ruach HaKodesh via the Urim v'Tumim were not one and the same. Rashi provides a midrashic interpretation to the words Al Pi HaGoral. The pshat reading for this phrase would be according to the dictates of the Goral, but Rashi reads the word Pi as peh, a mouth, an object that communicates, and as in case of the Shekhinah speaking from the space between the two keruvim that covered the Aron HaKodesh in the Mishkan, Rashi suggests that v'hagoral atzmo, that the Goral box hayat savach v'omar, cried out and stated, Ani HaGorel, I, the Goral, aliti l'gvul ploni, have designated that a particular region of Eretz Canaan, the Shevet Ploni, should be allocated to a particular Shevet. And Rashi, quoting from the Tanchuma, provides us with the text source, Shene'emar al pi hagoral. So in effect, we have two communications regarding the allocation of land, one from the Urim v'Tumim, two from the Goral, and hence we are still left with question number 2. If they had the Goral, and in this case the Goral proclaimed to the nation and testified to the validity of the decision, why then was there a need for the Urim v'Tumim Ruach HaKodesh to provide that very same information?